Hi friends, host Eric here, host Talking with Famous People, and I've got next to me a little outline for this video. So without further ado, I'll get right into it here. I want to be efficient, or I guess I would say purposeful in my execution of these sort of things. But that's what the first section of this video is about, is specifically burnout, rebirth, phases, thwackage, flow function. So it wasn't very long ago, about a month ago, that people were saying TWFP's dead, let it die, kill it, whatever. Everybody's losing interest, you're losing interest, Eric. What was really meant there is, where are you, Eric? And if you're not, owning and believing the value, why should anybody else? Well, it wasn't that I didn't believe the value, it was that I was burnt out. I didn't have any clear sense of direction as to where the way forward was with this channel and with what I was doing here, typing stuff and all that kind of stuff. I just didn't have any way forward. It was just sort of a morass that I found myself waddling through. And at a certain point, the gratification of SI elements ceases to be adequately motivational. That is to say, this channel will always motivate me to make videos periodically because I want to keep track of where I am in life and what I'm thinking about and stuff like that. But it has to serve a grander purpose in some regard, or else it just becomes this little insular vanity project that gets increasingly cloying and decreasingly satisfying. So, what caused those things to change? What caused me to re-energize? Well, I mean, a number of factors, but a huge one was the type police concept. Having a central concept that I can keep cranking those out without a lot of thought preparation or effort, where I don't have to come up with another idea, it's already built in, allows me to intermix in other ideational videos that are informed by things I've heard and seen outside of my own brain and my own community that can sometimes be a little bit of a TI bias to it, So, what's the occasion here for this particular video then? Well, basically, like I said, about a month ago I started feeling a little bit re-energized with the type police stuff. Then I ran out of speed. If you don't know, I am a amphetamine user, which is to say, I get prescription Editorial from the doctor, and I take it. The thing is, I don't take it every day because every month or so, I have at least 1 week where I go off of it and basically sleep and eat. I call it sleeping week. So, prior to getting my prescription filled a couple days ago, I had been off of it for over 2 weeks. And that's a long time to just be without any amphetamines. The thing about that is, in some sense, I may have been more effectively productive not on it. I made a lot of type police videos without any amphetamines in me, and by and large my editorial discretion was pretty good. Like, they weren't too long, they weren't too indulgent. I kept in mind the purpose of them and the audience, and in that regard I might be in some ways more effective even when I'm less productive. But there's no disputing the fact that amphetamines make me more productive. So it's a balancing act between, unleashing your enthusiasm, which is what amphetamines do for me, and retaining your discretion. Thwackage. Thwackage is what I refer to as the state of being extremely sprung or spun or on speed. So if you just take like one Adderall pill and you never take the drugs before, or you never take them usually, you'll probably feel kind of speedy. If you're a regular user of them, one probably won't do much, but if you come off of a couple weeks long sleepy week, then 2 or 3 will do quite a bit, as it did to me 2 days ago when I first got my prescription filled. And then the next day, yesterday I took 4. All this is fiction, by the way, in case there's any law enforcement professionals out there trying to bust somebody for not taking drugs as prescribed. Anyway, then today I took 3, and a few hours later took another 2. So that'll be it for today, probably. I'm not going to take any more until tomorrow because I want to go to bed at night. Now, I haven't slept that well the last 2 nights. I haven't gotten a lot of sleep. But because it's just rushing back into my system, and I got so much sleep over the 2 weeks prior, I'm feeling pretty damn good right now. I'm feeling pretty, like, in a state of flow. Revitalized with ideas, things I want to make videos about, growth arcs, shit like that. For me, as an action type, I'm most comfortable acting, taking action. But as an intuitive action type, I can struggle with the diligence aspects of things, the discipline aspects of things. So speed provides the motivational boost that makes concerns about stick-to-itiveness irrelevant. Argumentation and attacking hysteric, and why I bring this on myself, and to whom, I don't know why it says to whom. So, one thing that I do a lot is invite attacks of certain kinds, because I'm constantly positioning myself as the person of superior knowledge. So the thing is, in alpha quadra types will tend to get the fact that I'm posturing in some regard, or using an argumentational strategy, because alpha quadra rejects the notion that we ought afford more legitimacy because of who you are, or what you've done before, or whatever else. So it's a merits-based quadra that says this instance is isolated from prior instances, and whatever it is you're saying needs to be judged on its merits, not on your merits. So as the, I guess you'd say, the intuitive extrovert of alpha quadra, I am naturally going to inhabit a role of the hawk of the quadra. Like, I'm ready to go tear down beta quadra's hierarchy focus. I'm ready to go tear down delta quadra's seriousness. I'm ready to go, like all that kind of shit. Because why? Well, it worked for me for long enough, I didn't need to win friends or influence people. I needed to win arguments. I was much less interested in winning friends and influencing people as I was in winning this argument and getting what I want out of it, whatever it might be. And the aftermath can deal with itself. The thing is, I, too, like almost everybody, I hate people who are presumptuous or are full of themselves and think they know best and that we should all listen to them. At the same time, I could be accused of carrying forth this bearing onto others very, very frequently. So, one thing I hope to work on a bit is to remember that I don't need to use that element of rhetorical weaponry, namely, like, you know, I put a lot of pressure points. I push a lot of pressure points on people because I like to dictate their argumentational action. Or I guess you could say I won't let them dictate the argumentational action to me. In some ways, arguing is like poker. It's a matter, if you're good at it, I'm not good at poker, but if you are good at it, it's about the correct application of pressure against weakness. And that's exactly what argumentation is about. The difference is, in poker, you don't know what cards the person is holding, and they may have good cards or not. In debate, or argumentation in general, most issues that people might want to argue about, I've worked through all the argument chains, so I do know what cards they're holding. I know what arguments are available to them. I know what the best arguments are that they should be using. And so when I choose to approach those things competitively, or as is my habit, on a merits-based warfare approach, like, well, let's have our words do war, and may the best words win. It's not... I need to be a little bit better than that. At a certain point, somebody like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or something, they're going to come to an end of their playing days, and if they if they're really such a master of the skills, then they'd be well served to go into coaching at some point, right? It's not quite the same way with arguing, but my point is, I'd like to loosen from my reflexes this automatic prioritization of rightness, correctness, legitimacy, word stuff, and spend a little bit more energy on FE stuff, really, which is like acknowledging the deficits of my own understanding, acknowledging the value of other people's understandings, acknowledging the importance of humility and of being open about that as well. All that kind of stuff is ways that I can build general goodwill. The thing is, there's this alliance and opposition thing that happens in this community where some people are aligned ideationally with some models of this thing and opposed to other models of this thing. So I've created a clear fissure between me and DaveSuperPowers, which I'll get to in a second as to why I've done this and what it means. So I would like to do the narrative work to make it impossible for a person to try to split the difference. Like, you shouldn't take from him the things you find useful and from me the things you find useful. I mean, you will automatically. But my point is, you cannot get the sticky wrongness off of anything good he says because of his fundamental frame failure. And that's what I'm going to get into starting now. Maps and territories. We always have to check the balance between the boards. What that means is there are some people in the world who care about the actual thing, and there are some people in the world who care about how we talk about it. Making sure that we remember that there is a map and a territory, and that they are not all one thing, is critical to not mistaking the map for the territory. So let's use DaveSuperPowers here as an example to explain this concept as I hope to convey it. DSP and Empirics. We know we can discount all of DSP, DaveSuperPowers, because of what he tells us right away when we first arrive at his channel. that he is interested in objective typing and finding an objective test that can determine for sure, once and for all, a person's type, and that can be relied upon to consistently produce the right answer. That is what I would call mistaking the map for the territory. And the reason is because it's a failure to recognize a teleological base in every application of this. There is no such thing as an application of this that's not purposed. So if I'm DaveSuperPowers and I'm telling people, this is your type, and this is why it's your type, and here's how you should think about type, then I'm trying to say to them, this is something that we can objectively determine, for sure, and our duty, sort of as typologists, is to maximize empirics in this so that we can reference concrete data that doesn't move around. Okay, that might sound like a perfectly reasonable thing to want. We have that same idea underlying Big Five, underlying IQ. And so, to see why taking this frame and trying to underpin functions with it is a disastrous misstep that costs you the round, as we say in debate. To the extent that we can pin down something into concrete, unchanging, and certain data points, then we strip away from it the meaning. There is a relationship between meaning and data that is equivalent to the relationship between direction and location. As you probably know, there is an inherent quality to things of the universe that prevents us from knowing both precisely exactly where they are and precisely exactly which direction they're going and how fast they're going. So, in other words, to know precisely the status of something, in other words, its static state of being, is necessarily to forsake understanding it on a process level. And this is absolutely true for cognitive functions. IQ forsakes the process level in order to give you concrete, absolute data points. But as a consequence, the only meaning it has is meaning that is created by establishing correlations between scores on this test and certain outcomes. Those correlations themselves may be an effective way to improve over 50% probability of your predictions. Maybe. But the problem is that's not useful, meaningful, or informative at all. We don't serve ourselves well when we try to represent the human experience and process through things that don't change, data points that don't change, because we necessarily, in exchange for the gleaning of scienciness, sacrifice all the real utility of it and all the correctness of it. And the reason is because human beings are open systems. As we learn about cognitive functions, we change the way we act, we change the way we think, and we change the way we metacognate. Our reflexes may still be reflexive, but now we've got an understanding that they're reflexive, so we no longer quite so much automatically afford them universal primacy. When we're kids, however we are, we assume that's how everybody else is. And if I'm an NE Dom followed by TI, and then as a kid I'm going to assume that everybody's like best stuff ideas, like, like, ooh, this is the best thing. Everybody's is based on the same frame of mind. That everybody's going to prioritize novelty. That everybody's going to prioritize logical consistency. And everybody's going to prioritize social rewards. When I was a kid, I assumed everybody wanted to be the center of attention all the time. And there've been, and not just when I was a kid, when I was 43 years old, I was still thinking this. I'd have people come into the rooms, and I'd bend over backwards to try to get everybody equal chance to be the center of attention. Eventually, I realized they're introverts, Eric. They don't want to be the center of attention. They want you to talk. You're thinking, well, that's not very egalitarian of me. I should be fair and treat myself the same as everybody else. I should stand in line too, blah, blah, blah. Well, in this instance, beta quadra has the point there, which is hierarchies exist sometimes for good reason. The reason people listen to me talk about cognitive functions is because I know what I'm talking about. And the reason people go into those rooms is because maybe they want to meet me, or maybe they want to talk to me about cognitive functions, or maybe they want to talk about cognitive functions. But it just confuses people when I try to be too egalitarian, because that's just denying reality. It's like, this is your channel, Eric, and you always position yourself as an expert when making videos and stuff, and you always speak with such certainty and like clarity regarding your own rightness in your own head anyway. But then when you go and hang out with people in the room, you've got this weird FE thing where you're bending over backwards to make sure they feel adequately included. I don't, not so much anymore. I'm talking about, at the beginning of the raw room and stuff. Taylor helped me understand that sometimes egalitarian democracy is not good. Sometimes we have to allow the differences between people as implicit to their character rather than the specifics of the merits of their actions or words right now to be determinant of things. So, which brings us to things that are determinate. DSP is trying to tell us that empirics are determinate. Empirics are not determinate. You can have as much test data as you want showing you're this type or that type or the other type. And it will always be suspect, because a test that's standardized in some sense is saying, represent yourself with static symbols. Let's jettison the process part and just focus on the persistent identity part, the character aspect of things. Well, unfortunately, humans are processes, and that's going to fail. So if you're trying to say, look, we're best off producing static representations that ignore the process aspect of human being, then your initial starting point is wrong and excluding half of the relevant factors. And so whatever additional meaning you build off of that wrongness is going to create disastrously silly things. So, for example, let's talk about what it means to forget your frame of reference. Cognitive functions are used by people to understand both the totality of the human experience. In other words, how can we break up the totality of human experience into categories and mechanics and stuff, and to understand themselves and to understand other people. Those are all three different things, right? The ideal manifestation of a cognitive function model or taxonomy or whatever you want to call it, a framework, is one that is simple, elegant, and robust. It should be not that difficult to understand, and it should resonate intuitively as sensible, and it should afford you more power in the same way that a power drill affords you more power than twisting with your hand in a screwdriver does. But note, what's not in there are any of the impacts of self-identification or set membership. which is what DSP wants to establish. So no meaningful understanding of cognitive functions is one that says, I'm a member of this set with all rights and privileges accordingly. I'm an ENTP, so that means I get to be good at this and bad at this and blah, blah, blah. That's... No. The fact that you're a member of a set is incidentally necessary because we're taxonomy. But to think that set membership is going to provide you the meaning about the self or about others that will empower you or render you a more effective open system is insane. The incidental set membership is the cart. The elimination of wrong understandings of how human beings are, present, move through time and space, getting rid of those wrongnesses is an excellent idea. And the initial wrongness I think people get rid of with cognitive functions is that reflexive assumption of primacy regarding those values and functions that they consider preeminent. So, that you self-identify as a type, meaningless. That you self-identify as a configuration of attentional habits is meaningful. But it doesn't let you say things like, because I'm an INFJ, I have visions of the future, I'm a very, very special snowflake. No, it doesn't matter. That's not the point, and you're getting it wrong. You're putting the cart before the horse. Lady and clergy. So, if you do get it wrong and put the cart before the horse, you'll create a system where there are lay people and clergymen. Let me give you a perfect example. In one of the videos recently where I explained why DaveSuperPowers is wrong and we shouldn't listen to him, I received a comment that said, you need to do a little research, Eric. Before you're going to be telling us why DaveSuperPowers is wrong, spend the small amount of money that's necessary to take his class, learn what he has to say, then you'll be qualified to respond to it. Okay, so that's the sort of thing that happens when you start building your house on poison bricks. So let me get this straight. If I want to better understand the human condition, myself and others, I need to take a special class I have to pay for, and in the process of learning about the human condition, myself and others, seeking in this instance, as I ought to, a simple, elegant, and powerful model, I will be told that there are 512 types, and many of the subtypes of those 512s are almost identical to subtypes of a different type. So you have to be really, really, really knowledgeable and super aware to be able to spot these minute differences. Well, how is that useful to anybody? Remember, we're talking about an intellectual scaffolding, a means of understanding human behavior and cognition. Human behavior and cognition is not more meaningfully understood via a system in which there are 500 plus subtypes, many of which are doppelgangers to others. If you think that you'll better understand humanity by declaring natural variations between individuals in a set to be indicative of myriad subsets, because every behavior has to be representative of a pattern, none of it can ever be particularist, well, then someday an ENTP is going to make a video like this in which your TE-DOM wrongness gets crumpled together into a ball about this big, and then you're bent over and it gets pushed firmly into the ass, all the way up into the deep up into the upper intestine. So that's what's happening to Dave's superpowers right now. He's sleeping actually at home, but metaphysically his identity is resonating with what's happening, and his stomach's starting to gurgle, and he's like, oh my god, starting to cramp, and he's springing up out of bed right now, rushing to the bathroom. Why? Well, because while he was sleeping, I walked over there and I crumpled up his wrongness, like I said, and I shoved it up his ass. So, lady and clergy, FE projection. People like to come and do begging the questions type stuff with me and go, the problem with what you're doing here, Eric, is blah, 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 and this is why you're wrong, blah, 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 blah. Shit that I do too. I do that too all the time. It's just FE projection. It's like, I'm not buying it. Your perceptual dominance strategy here is not affecting my perception like the way you want it to. Perceptual dominance in debate means people do that in debate rounds all the time. As they near the end of the round, they start positioning themselves as happy and full of swagger because they so obviously won the round, in the hopes that the judge is gonna be influenced by that. Is gonna bypass the actual decision-making process of looking at the flow and the arguments and seeing what happened in the round, and just sort of go by how everybody's acting. And sometimes it sort of works, you know. It's never gonna work here. You're never gonna sneak that shit past me. So for the commenters who try, don't bother. There's no point in it. FI projection. FI projection is like, it's more assuming that you're intending harm because you disagree with somebody. It's like, well, Brittany came in the room the other day, and I gotta save this one to the last thing, but I guess I need this to explain this point here, which is, why do you have to belittle everyone's ideas, Eric, is what I heard there. Of course, I'm not belittling their ideas. She's coming and laying out a bunch of wrong bullshit, and I'm saying, no, that's wrong because of this, that's wrong because of this, that's wrong because of this. She wants us to agree, but she doesn't seem to understand that my agreement is meaningful only because I disagree when you're wrong. TE presumption. That's what Dave Superpowers says. That, you know, he's convinced that if you just get the algorithm down, we can make this whole thing empirical and sciencey. And don't forget, everyone's universal frame is goals. Because obviously, I mean, no matter who you are, you're always trying to pursue your goals. No TE presumption. Just go away. You don't know what you're doing. When you're trying to argue with me about this shit and your TE frames of reference, you are ignoring the fact that this is a definitional framework. TI primacy. In other words, no non-TE user, no non-TI user, nobody who doesn't have TI in the first or second slot is ever going to win any battles about cognitive functions. If they disagree with the TI user about it, the TI user is going to win every time. Because we are not talking about cancer. If I had prostate cancer, instead of just a slowly growing prostate, then when the doctor took my blood, he would have found a specific protein that my prostate would have been shooting out because of the cancer. That's something we should use empirics for. Those empirics are meaningful because we can look for empirical markers and glean a specific, concrete, and certain meaning that informs us about what specific course of action to take with something like cancer. We can't do that with functions or type. You can't give me a test to tell me exactly what my type is because my set membership isn't a meaningful tag anyway. And there's no way to verify aspects of cognition that are subjective, namely, that never leave your head. I can tell you I have a lot of deep and powerful feelings all the time. But there's no way to verify any of my self-reporting on cognition that's subjective. You can't verify self-reporting on TE. You can't verify it on FI. You can't verify it on SE. You can't verify it on SI. You can verify some self-reporting on TI. Presumably you could with FE if you could make the test well enough. You could probably assess people's social awareness and how habitually they attend to those things. You could test their NE, potentially. I don't know if you could standardize such a test, but you can certainly check it. And you can check their NI. That one's the hardest one to check of the 4 objective functions, but they're possible to be checked. So, if you don't begin your thinking about this stuff with a recognition of the fact that some things can be checked and some things cannot, and it is not the case that things that cannot be empirically established don't exist. None of our feelings can be empirically established, but they do exist. You might say we can empirically establish your experiencing feelings by doing brain scans, and when this part of your brain is lining up, then you're experiencing this emotion, blah, 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 blah. Well, even if that's the case, it doesn't change anything, right? Because we still can't empirically tell us anything meaningful about the emotion I'm feeling. You might be able to say, I confirm that you're feeling emotion and you're not lying because I see this part of your brain light up. And that part of the brain is consistent with emotion. But remember, I'm reporting on my emotion for a reason. There's never anything that happens in the nice, sterilized control settings of science that's part of the human experience as it actually occurs that can inform us in that regard. So, I'm getting a little bogged down here, muddled in what I'm saying. Let me move on. Here are growth arcs. So I have, obviously, my own growth arcs, too. Everybody probably does, and maybe not everybody. I don't know. Some people maybe don't care about growing. But one of my growth arcs is to manage better this gauge of all-knowing display that I tend to do. And Kimberly named it that and called me out on it early in our relationship when I'd say things like this. Look, Kim, I'm trying to work with you, and I will agree with you. Whenever you are correct, you will find I will agree with you. But I can't agree with you when you're wrong like this time. Well, you don't get to decide when I'm right or wrong, Eric. You're not the gauge of all-knowing. Okay, well, but I have good reasons to say you're wrong in this instance. Okay, then sell me on it. Don't assume that I'm just going to take your word for it. And don't assume that we have to use your understanding of legitimacy, your TI understanding of legitimacy, as the determining factor in this issue. That's something I need to work on, do a better job of, because being the gauge of all-knowing might be an effective enough approach in a zero-sum competition environment where my goal is to win and make the other person lose. People get flustered when they hate you. And I can make people hate me in certain kinds of contexts and debates. Like, the person who's trying to get everybody to accept some little piece of bullshit, be more efficient because, well, it came down from this is what the memo says, and it comes around and starts trying to convince everybody they have to do something that is kind of a questionable thing. I'm their absolute worst nightmare. because they're not going to be able to take even a half of a step without slogging through thick mud that just grabs you and holds you in place. I'm not going to let them get away with anything rhetorically. So that's the thing, is it's fine in those settings when it's competition. In other words, I'm opposed to this person and what they're doing and saying. They're my opposition. They're my opponent. I can use these techniques just fine because I don't want them to like me. I want them to feel shamed by me. But that doesn't justify a bunch of question begging, which I sometimes do. Like, I'll present the issue that's really in dispute as a assumed premise in some other argument. And people do this all the time, and I don't think they really know they're doing it usually, but they do it all the time, and I do it sometimes. And it's an inhibitor to meaningful discourse, because it's like, before I can go back to having meaningful discourse with you, first I have to take off this bullshit costume you tried to put around everything. Editorial discretion. Another growth arc for me is editorial discretion. When I am feeling super enthused about ideation or making or the channel or whatever, I can get a little self-indulgent. This video is probably a little self-indulgent, but I at least forced myself to make notes ahead of time so I had something to keep me back, get me back on track if I started to go off the rails. I hope to continue to have good editorial discretion. I hope to continue to better implement NI into my media making in the channel, which is to say, after this, I'll probably put up a few type police videos. Make sure that the subscribers who are here just for those don't go, okay, he's just trying to fill my thing with a bunch of spam shit and filler episodes, so I don't want to subscribe to him anymore. That's a perfectly reasonable thing that people might do. I want to do what I can to prevent that. That means showing good editorial discretion and being aware of what people want and what they don't. Aspirational jobs. I've heard from a lot of people that they'd like to have some sort of job in typology or life coaching or stuff like that. As somebody who's actually done those things professionally, which is shocking to say, I've had people pay me for life coaching and pay me for typing them. I'm struck by why people want those jobs. So I would say that probably the main reason people want that job is FE. There's nothing that's going to do a better job of convincing you to have high self-esteem than if other people view you as somebody who's wise and doing shit right and can provide them coaching or insight into how to live. It's such a funny term, life coach. I don't need a breathing coach. I don't need a smoking coach. These things just sort of are things I naturally do, like living, for example. But it is true that a life coach is a good idea. I kind of wish I had one, and I wish I had a good one who helped me to turn potentiality more into actuality at a higher rate of conversion and at a better a more streamlinedly purposed life, I guess, so that a higher percentage of my actions are purposed and a lower percentage of them are expressions of random whim. FI is another reason why people might want that kind of job, and it's to say they genuinely feel deeply all the interpersonal relational shit and view it as very important and feel like they can do good by attending to the precious feelings of people. You might have an SI reason to want to do it, which is to say, well, I've learned so much about it, I want to use it. You might have an NI reason to want to do it, which is, I know this is the truth about how people are, and I need to spread the gospel or something. I think those are all bad reasons to want to do this, FI reason being a better one, but I think a good reason I want to do it is because you have faith in talking. I have a lot of faith in talking. I don't have faith in my own wisdom going into a conversation as a life coach or whatever, but I have absolute faith in talking, that if given enough opportunity to talk to this person, I'll figure it out, whatever it is. I'll figure out what it is their problem is if they have a problem, or what it is they want if they want something, or what it is that will give them some sense of directionality or clarity regarding processes and stuff. I'll get there if you give me enough time to talk to you. So that's what I really have faith in, is talking. I have faith in discourse, and I have a very much overly large presumption of goodness towards everybody. I assume everybody means well, and I assume everything's going to go well, often to a fault. But having those assumptions is, in my opinion, vastly preferable to the alternative, because for people who don't view themselves as noble, good, wise, intelligent, beautiful, just, whatever, and none of us view ourselves as all those things all the time, but for people who habitually view themselves in a negative light, it's like the starting spot. Which assumptions are you going to work off of? A lot of times I need to work off of more realistic assumptions. Okay, well, let's work off the assumption that it's not going to go perfectly, and let's see what we can do with this. It would be wise for me. For people who are more pessimistic and or have ontological damage. If you have low self-esteem, you've got some sort of ontological damage. It's not, nobody has low self-esteem because they're not a very good person, and that's why they should have low self-esteem. Well, you just got dealt a shitty hand. You're an ESFP, so you shouldn't feel good about yourself because after all, you're just a dumb ESFP. No, it doesn't work like that. You have low self-esteem because you've sustained damage, and people betrayed your trust, probably when you were a kid. You internalized some of their bullshit, but beyond that, your damaged trust makes it forever difficult for you to be positive, because positivity and trust are almost the same thing. Optimism and trust are the same thing. It's like, well, of course I'm going to admit I'm wrong, because I trust that, I assume that you're going to respond well to it. You know what? After hearing you say that, you're right. I am so sorry. That was my fault, and I apologize for saying that to you, Kimberly. It doesn't matter how many times she goes, yeah, you were wrong, and let me shit on you some more. I will forever continue to assume that she's going to respond correctly this time. That she's going to be like, okay, well, you know what, Eric? Actually, I was wrong in this one section here, too, and I'm also sorry for what I did. That's how any undamaged person responds. But damage makes it difficult for people to trust, and they don't respond like that accordingly. Which brings us to ESFPs, BPD, etc. So, Brittany came in the room the other night, called herself type denier, and tried to make arguments saying that, that she has the ability to, manifest her INTJ shadow and her savior functions as need be, and it's just a matter of being open to knowing how to use these other functions, and you too can unlock your secret powers and get a black belt in personality or something. Okay, so this is the problem with damage. I feel very bad for Britney in general, even though she's done some bad things to people, and people are fair when they say she treats people poorly and commits unacceptable, unethical missteps that justify something like ostracization or exclusion. I never wanted to exclude or ostracize Britney. I'm not the one who ever wanted to boot her from the room on site or anything. But the absolutely legitimate and almost uniform outrage of the community over her treatment of Annie. Annie was a girl who was like 18 years old, and Britney dropped her off in the ghetto of Chicago because Britney was feeling paranoid, basically, and she didn't like certain weird little things that Annie was doing in the car, like putting the seat back too far or stuff, and she succumbed to her own delusions about that Annie was secretly like calling her boyfriend and stuff in the back seat, and she just booted her ass out of the car in the ghetto of Chicago. Now, the thing is, it's necessary for us to apply standards of behavior to everybody equally. So, the fact that Britney's kind of nuts, it doesn't excuse her mistreating others. And it's a mistake of us to think that mental illness ever excuses rights violation. It doesn't. Whether or not you're mentally ill, you still have a moral responsibility to respect the rights of others, and if you fail to uphold that, then your own rights are forfeit. Period. It doesn't matter whether you had a good reason to not be able to be a moral agent. It's your one ultimate fundamental responsibility that trumps every other consideration. So, I'm not trying to excuse Britney's behavior here. However, I am going to say this, which is, I have a lot of hope for her. I have hope that there's going to come a day where she does something that I would guess would be would take an unbelievable amount of courage from her. That is to say, I'm going to put my trust in somebody else. It's not reasonable for me to expect Britney to put trust in ideas or statuses or words. So, the fact that I'm winning all the TI arguments about it, the fact that I can be very persuasive or convincing in the argumentation, that will never get Britney to budge. But where she does have the potential to budge is here. If she can muster the courage to trust, in other words, to put considerations regarding this system of discursive analysis called cognitive functions, to allow somebody else to be her truth provider in that area, then she'd be a lot better off. It would require her to trust, but if she were to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to stop trying to affirm Britney's affirmations, and I'm going to take some rounds off. I'm not going to be fighting any battles for a while now. I'm going to scrap what I think I already know. I'm going to go back to the drawing board, and I'm going to delegate my NI to Eric. Eric says I'm an ESFP, then I'm an ESFP. But I need to know more than just that, so I'm going to ask him questions to help me develop narratives that are useful for me and satisfying to me about why I ought to be ecstatic to be who I am, an ESFP. Of course, Britney, if you're watching this, and I don't know if she's still watching my videos or not. Who knows? She made a whole bunch of videos about my last video that talked about her. I didn't watch any of them, but that's because she is reacting to her distrust, and through her distrust, relying on the one thing she's always been able to count on, which is her SE, her following through, and her persistence. You don't have to be the best fighter to win the fight. Sometimes it's good enough to be Cool Hand Luke. I just keep standing up, you keep punching me in the face until your fist gets tired, and you walk away disgusted that I'm not fighting back. That's Cool Hand Luke's strategy, right? You can't Cool Hand Luke this, because your legitimacy as an understander of the function model or taxonomy of human experience is predicated upon your correctness in other people's eyes regarding your own type identification. If you're talking about what it's like to be an ENTP, and most people who encounter what you're saying think you've mistyped yourself, it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong in that point, because you're not going to get any credit for any of your wisdoms until you can sell people on the basic notion that you are what you say you are. So if I'm holding a class of how to be a better horse, and I walk up to the front of the classroom, and in the classroom there's a bunch of horses, and I say, now, as one of the best horses, let me explain to you what it's like to be a horse. But I'm actually a cow. Then, no matter how knowledgeable I am about horses, and no matter how well I try to teach that class, nobody's going to take me seriously, because I began with the most patently absurd of statements. Namely that I, despite my bovine nature, am a horse. So, here's the deal. I think Brittany has a lot of potential as a YouTuber. And the reason I think this is multiple, but number one, she will out-persist any and all comers, as ESFPs can do. .type.io. Number two, the reason I think this is because videos in which I talk about Brittany or feature her in the title get more views. They're popular. It's a popular subject to talk about with the viewers. Number three, well, she is crazy. I mean, I don't mean mentally ill. I mean, that bitch is nuts. You know, that's not a bad thing necessarily for YouTube. EJR&D was fucking even more nuts, way more nuts, frankly. And he was doing great until his nutsedness caused him to cut off his own nose to spite his face. And it troubles me to see her so obviously have to suffer. You know, she came in the room, she wants to start these arguments, she's full of shit, and she's not equipped to argue. But she's attacking. So I make the arguments. I school the shit out of her. But I don't feel good about it, because I understand her to be somebody who is damaged, lonely, untrusting, whose identity wasn't valued adequately when she was a child. And I respect this, and I'm not trying to pathologize her. Kim's the same way. Kim hates this reality and hates me mentioning it, because why? It says your positions are not as legitimate because of who you are. And that's something that's not okay to tell anybody, frankly. That's always fallacious. It may be the case that this time you are right to be mad at me. It's not necessarily the result of your BPD. It's not necessarily the result of you being on your period or whatever. Of course, Kim does this shit to me all the time, too. I hate the way you talk to me when you're on Adderall. Stop making this about how I am and who I am, and let's all try to commit to making shit about what we're doing and saying. one quick way to an unhealthy manifestation of a relationship is labeling. If your partner has said something mean to you, then you should be mad at them for saying something mean to you. You should not be mad at them for being a mean person. We have to be able to distinguish between behaviors and labels. People don't have traits like that. Labels may be more or less accurate, but as descriptions, but they are not accurate as inventories. I don't have an inventory of traits. I may habitually display my processes in ways that make certain labels more or less accurate, but fundamentally they're all metaphors. So, Brittany, know this. You are not done yet. You've got work to do. I'm not attacking you. I've never been attacking you. I've had lots of people want me to attack you, a lot more than I ever have. So, don't believe me because I'm right, even though I am. Trust me because you're courageous. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.